Welcome everyone to the Wow Women webinar series, Health, Wealth and Happiness. Tracy, you've got me today. Usually it's Tracy, who's far better looking than I am, but she apologises for not being here. There's been an unexpected commitments that she had to with her family, so she couldn't be here, but I've worked with her for many years and was more than happy to step in for her. So. But today we've got a special guest. We've got Terry Sofra, who's an accountant, financial planner, and property expert. But most importantly, he refers himself as a wealth educator. Over the last 25 years, he's helped thousands of business owners prosper by helping them financially manage the challenges of growth in their business. And I've seen it firsthand, and I think most accountants you come into contact with, they're very focused on the saving tax. But what's really important is to create wealth as you're in business. So using your business to create assets for your financial security. So Terry's got many strategies that can help out. And by doing that, he's driven our accounting firm into one of the country's most forward-thinking and helped many thousands of people over the years. So Terry's a very successful businessman in his own right, having helped build the business to where it is today. And he's also got a multi-million-dollar development and investment company. He draws a great deal of his inspiration from his martial arts, where he's a 3rd Dan black belt in Taekwondo. He's also married to Tracy, and they have 2 beautiful children that are in secondary school at the moment. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Terry and please enjoy.
Thank you, everyone. Have I got the screen there, Glenn, have I? Yep. Okay, well, thank you for the introduction. I wouldn't have got an introduction like that from Tracy, I'm sure, but nice to join you all here today. I can see there's quite a few people from around Australia here, so I'm really excited about sharing some ideas with you on wealth and money. So hopefully you got a pen and paper and you ask some questions with Glenn there in the background. It'd be great. And hopefully we get you to think a little bit different, because that's what it's all about, really, just having that growth mindset. And really, if you can stick around to the end, we have a bonus offer there that we just for attendees here today. So hopefully we can do something there as well and help you out in the future. But let's start off and let's share our idea. Really, at the end of the day, money is all about ideas. So our big idea, the old cliche, you don't have to be wealthy to invest, but you do have to invest to be wealthy. And I think that's so true. And I know it doesn't matter what sort of level you're at, everyone has money problems, really, at the end of the day. And money is an idea. So it's how you go about using money and how you go about thinking about money. And let me tell you, over 30 years, I've seen some funny ideas about money. So let's see if I can share some good ones with you. Making more money doesn't always help, as I've learned. But just a little bit about me. Yes, Glenn said I'm a fellow chartered accountant and a financial planner. I'm a licensed real estate agent. And you might say, so what? And I agree, because all those years of schooling taught me not very much about money. You know, I was lucky enough to sit in front of thousands of business owners over the last 25 years, and you get to know what works, and you get to know how the wealthy people, let's call them wealthy people, it's okay, we almost get offended by saying that in Australia, don't we? But how the wealthy people go about things, because rich people leave clues. And I've been lucky enough to follow a few of those ideas myself, and you know, really at the end of the day, that's what it's about. So I've copied a few of those people, and I've had a go myself, because that's how you learn. I've made lots of mistakes, and that's okay, as long as you know, you don't succeed, or if you haven't succeeded, let me say that, you probably haven't failed enough, because as long as you fail responsibly, you'll learn from your mistakes, and it's only really a mistake if you do it twice. So if you're not willing to fail, you're probably not willing to learn. That's a fair enough comment. But I take an aim, ready, fire approach to most business things that I do, and I learn along the way. You know, all those years ago, as a young strapping man starting my business, I was 29, and I set a goal of buying one property a year. And that was a pretty inspiring goal, which I thought I had no chance of achieving. It's been now 25 years, and we're probably averaging about 3 properties a year. I'm telling you that not to impress you, but rather to impress on you that it's a simple formula. It's like baking a cake, and I love baking cakes, by the way. It's a recipe, and if you follow that recipe, it works, and I've proven that. You know, now we have over $1 million of rental income coming in. It's like three paychecks a week, and it's quite amazing if you can do that. So it's about the rules of money, and I've learned the rules of money. And you don't learn from sitting on the sideline or reading a book or listening to the neighbour. You learn from having a go. And with that formula or recipe, I've helped countless thousands of people over the years create some serious wealth. So hopefully I can share some of those ideas with you today, and hopefully you can be in a better wealth position in the future because of these ideas. Hands up who wants to make money smarter, faster, and easier. Now, I can't see you guys, I'm talking to myself, but I'm sure a few of you put your hands up. You know, they say money doesn't solve all problems. Well, let me tell you, when you see people that don't have money, you realize the problems that they have. So I disagree with that. And after all, you know, money doesn't solve all problems, but at least you arrive to your problems in style. And I think that's so true. And if you're not so good looking, I guess money makes you look that little bit more attractive, doesn't it? So that's really important. But let's have a look at the stats in the lucky country. The lucky country. 54% of people will end up on a pension. This is, you know, out of 100 people retiring, 24 will go to the pearly gates, unfortunately. 12% end up broke. 5% will still have to work, which is probably more now. These are old stats. And only 5% end up wealthy. So, you know, that's pretty staggering statistics, isn't it, really? And I don't think about retiring, but I think that there is no way that I want to end up on a pension when I do retire one day. So, and it gets worse, really. These are government guidelines, would you believe, where they say that the average Aussie will retire on 91% of their average net income. I doubt it very much, especially after what's happened this year. So you can select your age there, and it's saying that the new guidelines are saying that you need 8 times your annual salary at retirement. We believe, as a firm, that you need about 130% of your existing net income at the moment. So if you take your net income, take the tax off, and you divide it by 6%, that'll tell you what your capital assets should be. So just net income divided by 6% will give you a rough idea of how much capital assets you will need to retire. Unfortunately, a lot of people have their head in the sand. You know, my business or my farm's going to be my superannuation. I've heard all that over my career, and it doesn't work. And the other way that people go about it is trying to save for retirement, and that doesn't work either. Let's have a look why. So what happens typically, let's say that red line there is what we've got till retirement. Say in this case, $500,000. But when we sit down with people and try and work out their needs, it really is quite different. They might need $1 million. This is an example only. So a gap forms, and that gap is really the big problem. And we see this quite a bit. So we need to start confronting the numbers now. It's like me coming back from holidays and standing on the scales. You really need to confront the numbers today and work out what the gap is. And be honest with yourself. You need to decide what sort of lifestyle you want. And it's okay to say that, you know, if you're happy on Struggle Street, which a lot of people wouldn't be, of course, or you want to be comfortable, or you want to be in prosperity town. Let's decide that today. Let's be honest with ourselves and confront the numbers. Because if you don't, you're just going to go through life on the grind, you know, like the little mouse on the treadmill. But I can guarantee you one thing today. On retirement, or when you hang up your boots one day, a bag of money will not fall out of the sky on your lap, or a FedEx truck won't turn up out the front on retirement day. I can promise you that. So it's our job to educate as many people as we can as financial planners to try and get them thinking a little bit differently. Okay, let's keep going here. So let's have a look at this. So this is just a little, it's not about retirement today, but I just want to show you this last slide on retirement. So 300 grand in savings at 5% return will last you about 6.5 years. So it's quite daunting, isn't it? Especially with, we're all living longer, and it's quite critical. So you'll have more time in retirement. So the last thing you want to do is run out of money. So what's stopping in the lucky country? What's stopping people from having a go? You know, the old saying, have a go. Maybe you can send out a little questionnaire there on the main reasons that you think that people don't invest. Can we have a look at that? So, okay, so I've got a couple here. So the fear of risk, you know, people, their tolerance to risk, they're a little bit scared of diving in, or they're scared of debt, having too much debt, or maybe failure, you know, because everyone around them, you know, sometimes you get people that say, oh, you don't do that because you'll lose all your money. The fear of losing money is quite real, isn't it? There's one there, not being financially savvy, and I think that's really important as well, and not understanding where or how to go about it. There's lots and lots of reasons that people don't have a go. Some of them are just having a bloody good time, and it's okay, I guess, but a lot of people are unable to delay that instant gratification. We want it, and we want it now. Yeah, no deposit, give it to me, 30 months interest free. I need it, and I need it now. So there's that. We're in a throwaway society, and we want whatever we want. So sometimes it's about not being able to delay that instant gratification. You know, things have changed. You know, we are now in the information age. You know, we used to be in the industrial age, where you were told, go to school, get a good education, you know, save up your money for a house, and pay off that, and you should be satisfied with that. Well, we now got this little thing here that they, you know, as powerful as 1969 when they sent man to the moon, we've got it in our hot little hands. It's the information age. So the old way of thinking, the industrial age way of thinking, go to school, get a good job and save, doesn't work anymore. It just doesn't work. If you don't believe me, you know, wages have barely doubled over the last 20 years, and property values have gone up nearly 4 times. So if you're trying to save a squirrel away like you know, like the little squirrel with the nuts, it doesn't work, I'm sorry to say. And if you're trying to save, you get probably 2% from the bank these days, if you're lucky. And really, at the end of the day, you're paying tax on that, so you're probably getting 1%, and inflation's a lot higher than that. So you're actually going backwards. And at the moment, especially with what's going on, the government is printing money like it's going out of fashion to try and get out of debt, and that's going to inflate, that's going to create inflation and erode our money at 1,000,000 miles an hour. So just keep all that in mind. Property has tripled or quadrupled, and wages have barely increased over the last 20 years. So savings doesn't work. I think we can put that one to bed. We have now the highest debt per capita in the world, and unfortunately, most of that's bad debt. So we haven't learned from the last crash. We're actually in a worse position now than we are. Now, that creates disruption, and it's like, and I'm sorry to say this, but it's like watching National Geographic, where, you know, you're not, the lion pride's not going to take down you know, a zebra when things are calm. So they create disruption, and when they create disruption, there's opportunity. So right now, a lot of people are down in the dumps, and there's disruption. I'm sorry for using that analogy, but that creates opportunity for people that are thinking right. So change it up, get rid of that old way of thinking, I'm going to save, because it just doesn't work. And slogging it out where you're exchanging your time for, like we all do, you're exchanging your time for money. That's good, of course, but you need something else. If you've got that old way of thinking, good luck with that. I have a saying, I have it up on my wall: the biggest risk in life is not taking a risk. As I say, we're not talking about retirement today, because that's the furthest thing from my mind. For me, it's about life, freedom, and choice. And when you think of that, I can't help getting a little bit emotional, because I think about my family as well. I would love holidays and everything that money brings. I don't think about money. I think about the good times that it brings. And I think the biggest word for me is choice. I have the choice to do what I want to do. So it's really important about setting inspiring goals for yourself and making sure that you get reward for effort. I see so many people not in business, but they're in busyness. Now, I don't know what the percentage is today of business people or wage earners. It doesn't really matter. We're talking about the same sort of strategies. But I see people in busyness, slogging away, again, like that little mouse on the treadmill, chasing the cheese, but they can't seem to progress. So we say to them, we want to replace the income you make in your business or your wage with passive income. So it's not reliant on you anymore. So you're not chained to working and exchanging time for money. Does that make sense? So seeing people slog away and being in busyness and in debt up to shoulders with no improvement, this is where I get excited and try and shake it up a bit and shake them up a bit and say, what are you doing? We need to change the way you're thinking. But there's always that little voice, oh, it's risky, and there's every silly excuse under the sun. I had one chap that, this is a true story, a black cat ran out of the garage on about the 5th visit of him going to buy a house, and he said that was a bad omen. So that little voice, if you're looking for excuses, every weakest excuse under the sun will pop up, I'm telling you. And you'll keep working away for your money at the hard slog. So slogging away in the rat race. So the key is, let's do something different. So I've created this swanky little wheel here. We've got limited time today, so I'm rushing through it. But let's go through this. So this is just a 4-step thing that I think the key 4 steps that you need to do if you want to change the way you're investing. So the first one is know the basics. Oh, I've skipped a slide there. Know the basics. And I talk a lot about blueprint, because the way you think about money, and remember, money is an idea. The way you think about money is, it probably comes from your environment, your family. I hear a lot of people, investing is risky. I don't like taking risk. And they come up with all these excuses. I'm not smart enough, I'm not educated enough, I'm not good with money, I don't come from money, money is the root of all evil. All that thinking is a closed mindset. It's like having a Ferrari and leaving the handbrake on when you take it for a drive. It really is, we speak to ourselves a lot, so you better listen the way you speak to yourself. I think it's really important that you understand your blueprint. You mightn't come with money, but let me tell you, if you're struggling with money, it's not how educated you are or how smart you are. It's probably because you're spending more than you earn, I would expect. That's the reason. It's got nothing to do with, I didn't come from money. So know yourself and know your blueprint and be aware how you're thinking about money. I think that's important. Understand where you're at and where you want to be. As I say, you want to be on Struggle Street, you want to be on Prosperity Town. That's really, we need to make that decision, because it's like turning a lighthouse on, and we know that's the direction we want to go in. Okay, so the way we think about money sometimes can be our environment. And I'm sorry for classifying, poor mindset, middle class, and wealthy, but I am today. I've just put a little slide up there, and You know, the poor mindset, and you probably know this, people that live week by week, they're at cash converters getting money for the week in advance. So that's the poor mindset. Let me get through the week. I'm struggling. The middle class is a little bit different. They would like to be in the wealthy zone, but they don't know how to go about it. They just want all the glitz and glamour, and they can't delay that instant gratification. So they go out and buy it on credit. So these people usually buy things they don't want with money they don't have, and it's usually to impress people they don't like. So you've heard the old keeping up with the Joneses, and I'll explain how they go about things. They're always looking for the ripper deal, but the ripper deal is not to make money. It's a ripper deal to lose money, typically. Now, the wealthy way of thinking is, you know, cash flow assets. And if you can write that down, cash flow assets, and we're going to extend on that definition moving forward. So they still love their toys, but they'll buy a cash flow asset first. Let me get my little pen out here. They'll buy an asset first to pay for the toy. Does that make sense? Whereas the middle class will just go straight to the debt. So the wealthy way of thinking is, let me buy an asset, a cash flow asset, to pay for my way of life. So think clearly. The way you think about money is crucial. There's a great book, and one of my favorite books, The Richest Man in Babylon, where they would create coins, and the coins would end up with the same 5% of the population. This is back 2,000 years ago plus. And it was just the way they were thinking about money. So they then go and create more coins. And again, it would gravitate to the same people who understood the rules of money. So, as I say, if you've got money problems, it's probably because you're spending more than you earn. The good news is if you've got a growth mindset and not a fixed mindset, we can fix that. You know, you can learn a lot from just the fact that you're here today is critical, or shows that you've got a growth mindset. As long as you fail responsibly, as I say, don't put the kids' education fund on it. Now, today's not a session on accounting, but I do want to just quickly run through this. You know, what is an asset? Because some people get really confused in this area. And the biggest asset we have typically is our home. But as an investor, you know, the bank calls it an asset too. The accountant calls it an asset. But as an investor, we don't see the home as an asset. It definitely is an asset, but it doesn't put money in your pocket. It probably, if it's like my home, takes money out of your pocket. So for today, we're just going to redefine that, and we're going to say the right type of asset is something that is a cash flow asset, so it puts money in your pocket and it appreciates in value. Okay, so if you're thinking of an asset, then a car is not an asset in that definition. A house is not an asset in that definition. Of course, it's an asset. Sometimes the bank calls it an asset because it's their asset. It's on their asset side of their balance sheet, whereas the loan is on your liability side. So just up here, we've got income less expenses is obviously a profit. That's your net. What's your net income's really at the end of the day. So that's down there, profit. And then we have assets versus liability, and this is your capital. This is really at the end of the day what you have to offer for security to the bank. So just keep that in mind. An asset is something that puts something in your pocket, and that's the takeaway I want to share with you today. But there's no get-rich-quick schemes. Over the last 30 years, we've seen lots of things come past our desk where people try and sell things to our clients. You know, we've seen woodlots, ostrich farms, retirement villages, almond plantations, you name it. Luckily, we didn't get involved in any of that. We've always stuck to two things: blue chip property, blue chip shares is the only way to create wealth. And even today, with the few weirdos that we've got in there as the world leaders, you know, shares is questionable as well. So the old saying, as safe as houses, is really important. Okay. So if you look at that definition I said before about let me clear that just quickly. Erase that. Sorry, erase all. So what happens typically is with the With the poor mindset, expenses, everything comes in and goes out in expenses. Just do that as a pen, that's probably better. So it comes in and it goes out the same week in expenses. Middle class, the money comes in and goes straight to liabilities because they want to keep up with the Joneses. And in terms of, so I'll clear that again. Sorry, it's a little bit slow. Raise all. Okay. So the wealthy way of thinking is, let me buy assets which will create more income. And then you get that cycle effect happening. So it's really important to understand the difference in the way of thinking. The poor mindset is living day by day or week by week or month by month. You've got nothing in reserve. The middle class is, I've got plenty in reserve, but I want to look shinier than I actually am. And the wealthy is, let's put some foundations in place and let's build some cash flow appreciating assets. Okay. Now, before you think like an investor, the investor, when they, before they part with their capital, because we work hard for our capital, there's three things they think about. How secure is this deal? Because, you know, I see so many people put their money into, oh, it's going to make 50%, and they don't think about anything else. They think about the 50%, they're going to get rich quick, and there's no get rich quick scheme. So how secure is my capital? The second question is, what return will I get? And when can I get my money back? If you can't answer those three questions, please do not ever part with your money. I've lost lots of money as a young fella where people said, oh, you know, you're going to get this and you're going to get that. How secure is my capital? Now, if you look at a share, for example, let's say BHP, how secure is my capital? Pretty secure, 100-year-old company. What return will I get? 5%. When can I get my money back? Whenever I like. Yet I see people dive in and invest in penny dreadfuls on a dream. They don't know. They can't answer any of those questions. All right, so that's how an investor thinks. Before you think like an investor, you've got to think like a banker. So I'm going to talk about that shortly. Now, there's a great book, Cash Flow Quadrant. I love that book. And it talks about the different positions we're in. So as an employee, you have a job and you are paying, you know, the more you earn, the more tax you pay at top level, right, on gross income. The self-employed, that's like me. It could be like doctors, solicitors, QCs, whatever. We sell time for money, and there's a limit as to how many hours we can work a day. And we think it's a business, but it's really a job. And we can't leverage, because if we're not working, the money doesn't come in. Okay, again, the more money we earn, the higher rate we pay, 47 cents, and away we go. Now, Cash Flow Quadrant, as Robert Kiyosaki, he talks about crossing over to the right side, and I truly believe this. Now, he says, to experience true wealth, you need to be either a business owner. Now, business is different from a self-employed. A business is something that you don't have to be at all the time. A self-employed is you're at the firefront all the time. Okay, so you have to work out ways to leverage, and basically what he's saying is you need to cross over to the right side. So I'm not saying everyone rush out and buy a business, a McDonald's. I'm saying if you're an employee, to experience true wealth, you need to possibly have a business as well, or be an investor. Okay, or if you're self-employed, the same thing. You can cross over and be an investor. Let me just clear that because it's a bit, all right. So you must cross over to the right side. So ultimately, if you can have a business that invests, well, then that's very powerful. So it's a great read, have a read of it. But you know what I hear, Terry, investing is risky. We think that saving is risky for the reason I told you before. Your money is being devalued all the time. Record printing of money now. Record printing. US, Australia have to print money. So that means as your money's sitting in the bank and getting 1% and you're paying tax on it, what's happening? It's devaluing. So, you know, I bought my first home. Here's an example: $101,000. House and land, 700 square block, brand new home, $101,000. Now, I wouldn't even get the roof tiles for that now. So it's important to understand that your money devalues because the government will continue to print money. Okay, so it's quite important that you understand that. You must be, just the takeaway here, you must be an investor to leverage and experience sustainable wealth. And relying on your wage or your business is not enough, and especially if you're not getting reward for effort from your business, which is probably the case at the moment for a lot of people. Okay, remember, disruption equals opportunity. So let's stop working for our money. We have to work for our money to a point, but let's think about things a little bit smarter. Now, sometimes people come to me, but Terry, the banker, the mongrels, they didn't give me a loan. And I don't say it out loud, but of course I think it in my brain. I wouldn't give you a loan either. Before you think like an investor, you've got to think like a banker. You've got to be ready. Okay. A banker, as I said, will look at your report card. It's like your report card from school. So, and I thought it was collateral that you're offering, which would be the first thing, but it's your serviceability. Serviceability. So how much cash flow you have, and can you service a loan? The first thing they look at. The second thing they look at is your collateral. And the third thing they look at is your history. So as an investor, we need banks. There's no doubt about it. We need to leverage. We need their money to leverage. So if we don't think like a banker, we're not going to get anywhere. So look at your report card. Look what your balance sheet looks like. Are you investing in liabilities? Are you investing in assets? Are you investing in cash flow assets? Is it the wrong type of debt that you've got? You know, there's good debt and bad debt. I tell people, don't be scared of good debt. Good debt allows you to leverage. Okay. So do you have cash flow? Do you have money put aside? A bit of a history that the banker can look at. Can you unlock equity from your house or any other, any other asset? I called it a non-asset before, but now I'm calling it an asset, so I'm confusing you. But sometimes we can unlock equity from our home. And a lot of business owners, I see them investing in what they think is assets, but their assets are devalued. They go out and buy the shiniest car every 2 years, and in 2 years' time, it's worth zip. So get your finance in order. That's the takeaway there. Your report card is critical. Think like a banker before you think like an investor. Now, in business, and I'll talk about business. So in business, as I said, there's a lot of people in busyness, slogging away, grinding away, and they can't see the difference. Your business is there as a tool to create wealth away from your business. That's my opinion. People think that their business is them, because if you're anything like me, I got consumed in my business. It was my life. That's all I thought about day and night. When I got up in the morning, when I went to bed at night, a lot of business owners are like that. Your business is not you. Let's get real here. And when I talk about, hey, you've just spent $5 grand a month in buying that new bit of equipment for the next 6 years, but you won't invest $5 grand to make your life better in the future. And I hear, but Tezza, I don't have any money. I've got to pay the wages, I've got to pay the creditors, I've got all these things. How do you expect me to invest when I don't have any money? To which I reply, you're confused. The business is not you. It's simply a tool to build wealth. And if you're going to be like the dog waiting at the end of the table for crumbs to fall off, you've got to rethink it. And I know this is tough times at the moment. And, I'm talking about, I like looking into the future. Things are going to get better. We're talking about that time. So let's get through this purple patch and let's get excited. So don't accept it. We've got to make it happen. We need reward for effort and we need balance. They're the two key ingredients to business and life, I reckon. It doesn't matter if you're a wage earner, reward for effort and balance. No one likes to turn up to work and not be appreciated or get a reward for what they're doing. But if you've ever been lucky enough to have cash with you at the end of the week on a Friday, and then Monday morning you look in your wallet and the moth flies out, I call that the wallet theory, where if you put too much cash in your wallet, you're going to be backtracking, saying, what have I done with that? Where did that all go? The business is the same. So what we try and do, I call it the 10-30 rule. When we have a good month, we have a halfway account. over here. I call it a me account, my equity, because that's what you went into business for. And we're going to take minimum 10%. You're a gun if you can take 30% of your profit. Just slice it out, move it aside. Don't worry about what the bookkeeper says. If you've got flush of money, I mean, if you need it, you can put it back within a day. But let's just make a provision so we don't end up like that wallet on Monday morning. And we're going to put it aside there. Now, if it sits there for a few months, we're going to think about exciting things with it. Let's talk about appreciating cash flow assets. It could go in your super fund. It could go into property. It could go to pay off debt. Let's talk about all these things, because that's what's going to drive. As I was speaking to someone the other day, he said, oh, the bookkeeper told me not to take it because I'll pay a lot of tax on it. I said, don't worry about the tax. We do tax planning for that. Let's take the money, right? And he said, I've just transferred 20 grand as I was talking to you. That's what I like to hear. That's exciting for me, because they're understanding what I'm talking about. Pay yourself first. So don't forget that 10/30 rule. It doesn't matter if you're a wage earner or not. I want you to just make a provision. Direct debit if you have to. Just push it aside. If you've got to put it back. In fact, if you're a wage earner, Tracy talks about 3 buckets. It's quite critical. It'll help you immensely. It'll help you budget. No one likes the word budget. So don't tell me what you make. Tell me what you keep. And tell me what you do with what you keep. That's the thing. I don't care how much. It doesn't impress me. I have companies turning over 20 million plus. I couldn't care less. I want to know what that slice down the bottom is, how much you take out, and what you do with it. And you know, I see a lot of interested people that say, I'm interested in investing, I'm interested in property, but they're not committed. They're not committed to take that first step. And so 10 years later, they're talking about the same thing. I like to try and help committed people to get to the next step. So are you interested or are you committed? One of the biggest words that I use day in, day out is leverage. I've used it a few times today. If you're exchanging time for money, there is no leverage. The wealthy get richer because they understand leverage, and they understand there's 4 ways to leverage. They borrow using other people's money. How long would it take you to save 100 grand? Or you can, you know, if your report card's good, you can get that within a couple of days. So 100 grand, $1 million, they use other people's money to make money. They shift other people's time. So what they do is, instead of paying back that debt themselves over the next 30 years, slogging away, they put that monkey on someone else's back, and we're going to talk about that. And they let that person or that company or whatever help pay that debt off. You know, if they borrow the money at, I've got here 4%, but you probably borrow it at 2%. It's the lowest rate on record at the moment, ever. So if you can borrow someone's money at 2% and make 10% out of it, that's your margin. That's your margin. That's like if you're in business and you know your GP, your accountant talks about GP. Well, as an investor, that's what we talk about, our margin. How much am I going to make? So I'm using someone else's money, which I don't have to wait 10 years to save today, to make money, and that's leverage. So the wealthy leverage, they use other people's time, other people's money, okay? They don't slog away exchanging time for money. So let me ask you the question and write it down. Are you working for your money? Are you exchanging time for money? And if you are, what's your plan B? Your plan B, are you going to leverage? How are you going to leverage? The way I leverage, I told you before, I'm self-employed, and I can't really leverage because it's a very personal business here. I try and leverage by having 30 odd staff. We do that. That's awesome. But I also have a property development company on the outside where I borrow other people's money to make money. And I think saving is risky. Investing is not risky. So let me ask you this very daunting question. And I want you to be real with yourself. Write down how long you can stop working for today. So is it 2 hours? Is it a day? Is it a week? Is it a month? And then I want you to write down in 3 years' time what you would like that to be. Now, I went away for a month last year out of my business. I never thought I could do that ever. And the business has done better than it ever did in the past. So that's really a slap in the face, isn't it? So in my mind, I thought, oh no, it's my baby, you know, we can't do this. But the reality and perception are miles apart, okay? So write it down. I can stop working for 2 weeks or 1 week or whatever it is. Be real with yourself, and then write down what you want it to be. Because we try and help people extend that time, because wealth is created, or wealth is measured in time, not in money. The greatest man of all time was so infatuated with compound interest that he created a little formula, and it's known as the rule of 72. So please write that down. 72 divided by whatever your capital rate of return is will equal the time for your investment to double. Okay, so for example, if you get a 7.2% cap rate, your investment will double every 10 years. I don't understand why 72 is there, and I'm not going to question the greatest mind of all time. So if you put a 6% cap rate in there, you double your money every 12 years, 5% is every 14 years, and so on. Okay. Now I want you to calculate this. Property has done better than 11% over the last 20 years. In some cases, it's in Melbourne and Sydney, it's done way better than that. So work out that how long it would take you to double your money with property at 11%. I'll leave that for your own little homework, and understand, or ask yourself, could you make that on personal exertion? Right? Now, is it going to happen in the future? The question is, things are a little bit different now. Migration is going to reduce by 1 million. Is this going to happen? But if you think about all the asset classes today, where would you still want to have your money? If you had a good sum of money tucked away, where would you want it to be? In the bank, earning 1%, or in the share market with Donald Trump doing silly things and saying silly things? Or would you want it where the bank loans you 90% because they are very comfortable at it? So the next time you take your money into the bank and they're going to give you 1%, and then they're going to reloan it to you at 19% on your credit card, just have a think about it, okay? Why they're doing it. The only one making money is them. And remember, investors think about leverage. Okay, so let me give you an example. Let's say all the classes made 10%. We're just pie in the sky stuff here today. Let's say your cash was going to give you 10%, your shares were going to give you 10%, and property was going to give you 10%. And I'll explain the difference, right? We have to give it an even keel here. There was one stage that interest rates were getting 18%. I actually had money. I had money back then before I got married with children, but I don't have that anymore. So bad luck for that. It was bad if you had loans back then, of course. But I remember what I'm saying. You can't save money, and you need to stop working for your money. Okay? And by that I mean you need to think. You need to have a plan B. So borrow someone else's money, do the right things with it, and you'll always have someone ready to lend you more. So let's go through this. So cash over here, if someone gives you, I'll give that a little tick there. Someone gives you, you invest 100,000, someone gives you 10%, and you get 10 grand. You put that in your tax return. The tax man, you're at 47 cents. The tax man wants $4,700. So you've got $5,300 left. You're paying 100% tax on that investment. Shares a little bit better. 100 grand invested, someone will loan you 50% usually on a margin loan. So now you've leveraged to 200 grand. And if that made 10%, 20,000, you get a 50% discount if you hold it for 12 months. So you're only paying tax on half. That's not bad. Because as a tax consultant, I love leverage. We can't fight the tax system. If you're there fighting the tax system at 47 cents, you need to talk to your tax consultant, right? Because you're getting nowhere. Every second day when you hit that alarm clock, it's for ScoMo. And I don't mind ScoMo, he's a good fellow, but I don't profess that I want to give him 47% of my money. So on a share, you pay tax on 10,000, not 20, even though you've earned 20. Obviously, you've got to pay a bit of interest on that. And with property, as I said, they will loan you 90%. In this case, I've used 80%. So the same 100,000, they leverage up and give you 400,000 because they're very comfortable with it. And that then gives you 10%, which is the fruit from the tree. The tenant will usually give you 4 or 5. And then the capital growth, hopefully 6% or better, there's your 10%. So you're making 50 grand a year. Got it? Now with tax, With the shares, you get taxed. With cash, you get taxed. With property, the wealthy don't get taxed. And I'll show you how they do that. So you pay tax on those two. This 50 grand is an unrealized gain. So how it works, so I'll just use an interest-only loan as an example here. So let's say we borrow 300 grand and we buy a $400,000 property. These figures seem very low, but anyway, it's for example only. So we start off, our equity starts off here at 100K. Now property will go in booms and busts here, increase and decrease. Right now it's probably on a little bit of a decrease, but that's always happened, but it always comes back stronger because of the population demand. And remember, Australia's got the highest property in the world, or one of the highest property in the world. So if the rule of 72 is right, my $400,000 here, I can do it here. No, I can't. My $400,000 will convert over 10 years at 7.2% cap growth to $800,000. Got it? So my equity goes from $100,000 to $800,000 up here. So I gain the 500 equity. That's how it works. Now I don't agree with interest-only loans, never have, but that's how the principle works. So investors never risk their capital. I told you that before. They go for sound, calculated investments. They use compound interest to grow, and that is the greatest thing that the greatest mind of all time impressed him the most, compound interest, Albert Einstein. Also, I told you that they take their capital back. So what do you mean by that? So they've invested, their only risk is 100K on the table in this example, but somewhere along the way, they revalue the property and they take their original capital, because they never risk their capital, off the table to the next deal. That's what we like to do, and that's how we leverage, okay? So it's almost, it sounds illegal. I call it recycling your capital. So you don't have to go and save another 100 grand. We're using the same 100 grand somewhere down the track. We grab it back and we go again. We grab someone else's money and away we go again. So they don't have to save more money to do the same deal. Revalue and recycle. Got it? Now, at this stage, people say, yeah, but Terry, I don't have the original equity to get in, you know, savings is too slow. You know, remember, it's not the timing in the market. It's not when you pick it. Right now, a lot of people are scared and stay out of the market. It's not the timing in the market. It's the time in the market. Have you ever heard that? It's the time in the market. The more years you're in the market, you let capital growth do its work, and that's how you make money. So I don't really care if Donald Trump's the president of the United States, or interest rates are 7% instead of 2%, or inflation is X. I don't care about any of that. My only goal was, what's my next deal? And when you get to a stage that you can do that, then deals start to find you. And I can't explain that in this short period of time. So the sooner you start, the better, and don't wait for the perfect moment, and don't let the cat running out of the garage scare you. That's all I can say. Here's a little deal that we did when the global crisis. This was a client that we bought a block of townhouses. They were pretty shabby. I just so I can show you there, I've just put a little thing there. Now, these were pretty shabby. They had no air conditioners, and we spent $40,000 per unit, townhouse, whatever you want to call it, to fix these up, tidy them up, paint them, new kitchen, and air conditioning. And because of that, the rent went up $100 per week. So with the rent going up $100 per week, the money we outlaid was quite substantial, $320, which will take us 8 years to recover that. But $100 a week, 8 years, you think that's not a good deal. But the property value went up. If you divide the 40 grand by 6%, we were able to revalue the complex by $660,000, which unlocked immediate equity of $340,000. So sometimes, again, it's about creating wealth, not saving wealth. And I think that's important. So you can sometimes pick up something that's a little bit shabby, do a little bit to it, and create some wealth. We always recommend new property because if you're a high income earner, it gives you the best tax write-offs. And I won't go in that today with the limited time. Okay, We're limited for time, so I just need to keep moving here. When we say the people that say that investing is risky, and we say that saving is risky, it's not, you know, grab a dartboard and put the newspaper on there and we throw, you know, we're going to invest in any property. It's calculated criteria that we look at, and there's about 12. The first thing is we love being anywhere near private schools. We love infrastructure. We love supermarkets, trains, trams. That infrastructure has got to be there. Because why? Because the demand, people want to be where there's infrastructure. So wherever that happens, you know that your investment is quite secure, I would expect. But then we look at the history and we say, what's the past capital growth rate? Is it greater than 7.5%? If it is, we give it a tick. Is there a demand for population? The population growth in the area has to be better than 2.7%, tick. And we go through all this criteria. What's the vacancy rates for the area? You know, there could be too many blocks being sold in the area. It needs to be less than 2.9%, tick. What's the rental yield? We don't want, you know, vacancy rates, rental yield. If there's infrastructure and demand for your properties, that's what's going to drive your capital growth, and that's what we want. So the rental yield's got to be greater than 4.5%. Remember, that's the fruit from the tree, but then we also get the cap growth, which is the tree growth. The tax effectiveness, as a tax consultant, I wouldn't forgive myself if we weren't able to claim a tax deduction. So we try and stay away from second-hand properties because we don't get the tax benefit there. So we look at lots of different things to maximize your cap growth. Now, 3% cap growth over the period of your investment life makes about a $400,000 difference at the end game. So 3%, that's how powerful it is. So sometimes I get a phone call, it might be Frankie, said, Terry, listen, I listen to what you're saying. I bought a property over the weekend. I go, oh, fantastic, that's good, Frankie. Well done. Where'd you buy? And they might say to me, oh, Buxton, you know, I bought in Buxton. I said, where the hell's Buxton? And I find out, in long story short, it's a one-horse town. You know, they bought it, licking an ice cream, looking at the real estate window, and they had a lovely weekend there, so they thought it'd be a great investment. No. We're not talking about emotional investments. We're talking about calculated criteria. This is our criteria. You set your own criteria. We have a software, Investor, that you can do your own read. You can look at 100 properties, make an offer on 20 with a view of buying one. But if you haven't got that criteria at your fingertips, so you can look at any suburb, anywhere in the world, anywhere in Australia, and you can work out all these things quite clearly, you know, at your desktop. So you don't need a team of 20 people. So wealthy set investment guidelines before they part with their capital. Remember, they don't risk their capital. And remember what I said about the difference of 3% makes a $400,000 difference to the end game. Okay, so I told you about the monkey. I spoke to someone the other day. They said they had a troop of silverbacks on their back. So he thought it was David Edinburgh. But that's what happens. You know, if you get the wrong debt and it's on your shoulders, you have to pay for it. Simple as that. And it's about something like $2.3 trillion in debt, the Aussies, 190% of our disposable income. So record highs. And unfortunately, as I said, most of it's the wrong debt. So we talk a lot about wrong and right debt because you can't leverage with wrong debt. So, you know, if you're committed to the 30-year slog with the bank, and let me tell you what will happen, 5 years in, they'll ring you and they will say, Johnny, I've got a great deal for you. I've got a ripper deal for you, the old ripper deal. You know, we're going to take 0.5% off your rate of your loan. And for once, you think that the bank is on your side. Well, what they're doing is they're resetting the goalpost because they want customers for the future. Yeah. So just reset your 30 years. So it goes forward another 5 years. And that's like compound interest. Well, it is compound interest in reverse. Yeah. So the word mortgage is a French word that is pledge for life or until death. That's what it means. Right? So having a 30-year loan and slogging away, that to me is like a sentence. You know, that's not where I want to be. so think of that. It's like the rule of 72 in reverse. The bank loves you. The bank's just reset you and giving you 0.5% off. Okay. So if you're slogging away, paying debt, you need to change the way you're doing things. You need some help because we can do investment and pay your home loan off quicker from that investment. So we can show you all these little tricks. So just to recap, an investor is not scared of debt. As long as your assets exceed your liability, that's your equity, your banker understands that. As long as you've got the monkey on someone else's back, not on your back, the banker understands that. That's your serviceability. The wealthier champions, it's shifting responsibility. They don't want to work themselves, and that's okay. They use someone else's time and money, and they throw the monkey on someone else's back. So next time, when all this craziness goes away, and you're walking down the street and you look forward and there's 100 people in front of you, they're all empty backs that you can throw your monkeys on, because more now than ever, people will not be able to afford properties, unfortunately, in the lucky country. So borrowing is crucial, and don't fear good debt is what I'm saying, as long as you're responsible. You never overcommit, and you never put yourself in a position where someone else is making a decision for you. But remember what I said, how long would it take you to save 100 grand? Whereas the bank will give it to you in a flash if your report card looks good. So the next time, look at people's backs, because that's the housing demand is at its all-time high, and Melbourne will surpass Sydney in population over the next 20 years. The gurus are telling us. So there'll be 6 million people in Melbourne, regardless of what happens. It's the most livable city in the world. And we can show you how to restructure debt to save thousands and use good debt to help you pay off your loans quicker. All right. The last one is, I did write cheat the tax man. Everyone loves to cheat the tax man. But someone said that's not appropriate. You can't put cheat the tax man there. So I've changed that to beat the tax man. And really, it's summed up by Kerry Packer's quote is what I'm trying to say in the inquiry, where he said, if anybody in this country doesn't minimise their tax, they want their head read. As the government, I can tell you, you're not spending it that well that we should be paying you extra tax. And what he's basically saying is it's well within your right to minimise your tax and not fight the tax system. If you're fighting the tax system as an employee on top dollar, as a business, at least we can put all these expenses in and pay tax on the bottom dollar. But as an employee, what are you going to do? You're fighting the tax man. And the more, every time you get a pay rise, they take a big slice. So beating the tax man is crucial to building wealth. And the wealthy are masters at it. They find the loopholes. Now I'm saying legitimate loopholes. And that's what we love. And that's what we like to do, is to help people. And I've saved, I can't tell you how much I've saved over the years. There's the tax rates. So there's that 47-cent slaughter rate that I keep talking about. So if you're over 180 grand, there may be some relief in the future. But if we can help you manage that and get the slice of that back and put it towards money you never had, put it towards your investments, well then we're doing our job. So the investor pays less tax by, I showed you the capital growth paying tax on only 50% out of 100 of any profit they make. They get a 40-year write-off, 40 years. So when you're doing your tax return with your tax consultant, you might say, oh, I've spent $150 in laundry. A building usually gives you $7,000 to $12,000 a year, every year, if it's a new building, for 40 years. That's a tax deduction. So it's amazing. I don't know how long that'll be there. And plus all the guts of it, you get a 7-year write-off. And we teach people with super funds how to pay zero tax on any wealth they build. So it doesn't get better than that as a tax consultant, where we can build wealth. And at the end of it, when we hang up our boots, we pay no tax. And that sounds like we're investing in the Bahamas with it, but it's quite legitimate, let me assure you. So there may be changes in the wind, so you need to act now if these investments are there. If they change it in the future, well then it's usually grandfathered. All right, so just finishing up, because I know I'm out of time here. So going back to that, you decide where you want to be. Obviously, if you're an employee and you're paying 39%, or you're you're a self-employed paying 47%. You can do a little bit about that. You don't have to accept that. As a business owner, there's lots of things we can do, of course. But as an investor, I told you there's ways that you can pay zero tax. And if it's not zero, it's a lot less than. So where do you want to invest, or where do you want to earn your money? On the grind or on investment where it's zero or no tax? Okay. So I think that's important. Okay. So when we show people this, they typically are surprised, you know, what they've got to carry on an investment. We don't want to overgear or do any of that stuff. But the majority that we look at is less than $100 per week. Now, let me tell you, I think I'm drinking more wine than that a week at the moment. But $100 a week is something affordable where we can delay a few of those instant gratifications, and we can do something about our future. Because as I said, the FedEx truck will not pull up on the time of day. It just doesn't work. So if I can get 5% of the people that are online today to be committed and not interested, because we're all interested, if you can be committed to bettering your life, for choice and whatever else that inspires you, well, then we've done our job here today. We can show you how to reduce tax and use capital growth to hopefully one day get the benefit when you want to hang up the boots. That's what I'm trying to say. So if it's the right property in your portfolio, has a massive outcome, and if you pick the right criteria, so that's important. And you can use your lunch money basically to get invested. So please set some achievable goals for yourself. That's the key. I'm a real goal-driven person myself. Otherwise, you just don't accumulate 60, 65 properties unless you are driven. Now, I'm not suggesting everyone go and do that. As I say, when I started, and a few people have joined us along the way, all it is a simple recipe, a recipe that I teach my children. It doesn't matter what their blueprint is. I've got a little girl and a little boy. Their blueprint are miles apart. The little boy and the little boy's got curly hair, blue eyes. Little girl's got straight hair, brown eyes. They are miles apart, and one saves everything, one spends everything. I can only assume that the little girl takes after the mother, but I can't say that because she might be online. But just joking around, of course. But the reality is, everyone's different, but I try and teach and maybe get into their head about their blueprint and get them to understand that they've got to put away 10 to 30% of everything I give them. They can't spend 100%, and let's do something with it. And, you know, 16 and 12, and they've already got a good share portfolio each. So it's because we've tried to install that into them from a very young age. Okay. So finally, you know, there's lots and lots of testimonies. I just want to leave you with this one with Leah. You know, Leah, I think the second paragraph says it all. We had no idea where to start, gaining direction, setting clear ideas. As I told you, most people do it on their holidays while they're licking an ice cream, looking at the real estate window, and that's where they make their financial decision, right? So we try and help people better their lives to 1, 2, 3, 4 properties, whatever they want to achieve. Now, one property could change your life by about $6,000 a year. So even that by itself, when you look at the way school fees and that are going up, can make a massive difference to your life, or the annual holiday, or whatever the case may be. But if you're looking at cash flow properties, and if you've got big goals, you know, 5 properties within 5 or 10 years, or whatever the case may be, whatever your goal is, can make a $90,000 cash flow difference to you. So it's really important. But best of all, you know, within a period of time, can make it 300. I've said 5 years by my calcs here. 5 properties in 5 years can make a 330 cap difference to you by our conservative calculations. So it really is important to understand that, and understand being able to take someone else's money and do something with it, get someone else's back, throw the monkey on it, and away we go. And that's what I've done all my life, as long as I can remember, and the formula works. Now, just in summing up here today, you can see I love talking. So I've got my phone number on the end of this, and I don't usually do that. Part of Tracy's Wow Women group, I always love supporting that. So anyone wants to ring for a no obligation chat or anything that you know that I haven't clarified properly, please do. But I just formulated a little offer here today for anyone that it says 60 minutes, but I've said for the whole day. And we can only offer this to the people on the session here today. So obviously, the first thing is a simple complete guide to negative gearing. It's a little booklet. A 1-year subscription to that software that I mentioned before, Real Estate Investor, where you have this powerful tool at your fingertips where you can research, understand, because remember, it's about getting financially savvy and not listening. You've got to listen to everyone, but make your own decisions. An annual subscription to our property club, which is about $250. Our Facebook property billboard, where you can ask lots of questions. That's thrown in there as well. So that's $250. And also, we sit with you, in particular, I sit with you and bring 30 years of knowledge to the table at every meeting, where we can sit down 6 sessions, which is normally valued at about $3,350. So it's nearly about $5,000 there. And what we're saying is, let's bring that down for today, where we're saying $2,500, $2,500, which can be done on periodic payment. So at the end of it, what we want is you to be in a property. And in fact, if you are in a property, we actually give you the $2,500 back, because there is reasons for that, which we'll explain. So it really is, you know, no risk or responsibility to us, and no risk to you. So it's quite important. So just recapping again on there. And that's it for me. So I hope you take advantage. There's all my contact details there. No wonder I don't sleep some nights. But if you need any help with anything, absolutely no obligation, even if you don't want to take advantage of the deal. If you do, we know we'll get you into a property that's going to change your life. But if you don't, and you want to talk about things, please do, because I really enjoy this stuff. So hopefully you enjoyed that. And I love your feedback and comments. So on that, I think Glenn's still online, but thank you very much for your time today. Greatly appreciate it. We'll see you next time on the other side.
Thanks, Terry. We just have one question's come through, Terry, if you can, have you got a moment?
Yes, of course.
So someone just asked, is it worth to build a house as an investment if they already own the block? They must own the block of land already. So, yeah. Yeah,
look, I obviously you've got to look at each circumstances, but the answer to that would be yes, because if you're building it, if you're talking for investment, I assume not to live in, but
yeah,
absolutely, if it's in the right area. Because remember, it's the criteria that drives capital growth. So if you're doing it because it's in your backyard and it's not quite the right area, I would suggest even selling the block and getting to the right area. Because as I said, 3% difference makes a huge result. But absolutely, if you've got a block laying around which is costing you money, so is it an asset? On my definition, it's taking money out of your pocket. Every year the council gives you a slashing notice. You've got rates, water rates, you've probably got insurance on it. That is my definition as an investor. And I've got plenty of blocks of land because I thought that was the right investment. When I was young, I didn't understand, but they're not cash flow assets. So it doesn't fit my criteria anymore. I'm trying to create cash flow so the monkey is on someone else's back. With a block of land, the monkey is squarely on your back. So you're going to have carried costs on that. But I would say generally if it's in the right area, and it fits your criteria, absolutely, without a doubt.
Very good.
Build it and turn it into a cash flow asset.
Great. And they've just asked to put someone's asked to put the slide on what's included in the package. Is there can you go back a couple of slides?
I can send a copy of these slides if anyone would like to give their, just back to the right slide, that's a bit distorted. Right, so let's go here. That one should do it. No, one more. Okay.
Yeah, cool.
So
Thank
we're
you.
saying a little guide for negative gearing. It's a little booklet, a 1-year subscription that we pay for Investor. So you've got that, and we'll show you how to use that. And you can load in your properties. So you've already got properties. You can load in your properties, and it's like, you know, with shares, how you're looking on your desktop and it tells you the value of your property. So it does a robo valuation on your property. So you probably do that once a year. You wouldn't do it every second day, but you know, it all of a sudden gives you a robo valuation on your property, so you can understand your equity. We pay for that, so that's out of pocket. Then we have our annual subscription to our property club, where we do newsletters and we talk about all things property, and we just try and get you thinking, like these little sessions. We do have webinars. You become part of that group, part of the Facebook property billboard. So you have direct access to me on any question on property, and the group where you can basically ask any question or see what other people have dealt with problems, and the property mentoring, where we sit with you. You know, it's online now at the moment, unfortunately, but we sit with you and have 6 1-hour sessions, or, you know, we say 1 hour, but they usually spill out to 2 hours, where we talk about all things property. We look at where you are right now, looking at your assets and liabilities, what your equity, can we unlock any equity, what your criteria to invest in. You know, I always say a good investment is one that you're comfortable with. And if you can, you know, sometimes if you get excited about investment. I had a young fellow the other day who his life dream was to buy storage investments, and we're working with him on that. And I think that's crucial. Whatever gets you excited, gets those juices going, that's what we want, because that's really the end of the day. That's, if you're buying some property that you don't love, it's not going to be the right investment. So we talk about all that sort of stuff. We then do a property investment analysis with you. So we say, right, we come back with a few different choices and say, well, this is what a townhouse would cost you in Melbourne. This is what house and land would cost you in Melbourne. And we have, you know, we don't really like units, to be honest. We want a footprint, because that's where, remember, I told you, buildings devalue, depreciate. We get a write-off for them. It's the land that usually goes up. So we want some sort of land component. So it's really critical. And we talk about all things over those 6 sessions with a view of, you know, I have one person who got through the 6 sessions and they still haven't found a property. I said, no problem. Let's keep going. We'll find you a property. It's not quite right now. Has that clarified that, Glenn?
Yep. No, that's great. So we basically, yeah, you'll hold their hand all the way through.
All the way through to, it could be, I don't want to buy a property. I just want to restructure my finance and be ready to buy a property. So it's very personal. We're talking about your finances.
No worries. Well, thank you, Terry. It's been very informative. I hope everyone got everything out of it. And yeah, please get in touch with Tracy or Terry for more information.
Thank you all, and thanks for your support. It's really great. I hope to see you on the other side one day.
Good night.
Have a nice day. See you.